Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World and another one of our season preview episodes as we have swung into the AFC South. And today we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. As they are finally committing to a rebuild. They drafted a young quarterback. No longer are they going to just string quarterback out year after year after year. We did the Carson Wentz, we did the Matt Ryan, we did the Phillip Rivers with mixed amount of success. It does seem like the Indianapolis Colts now are swinging into a full-gone rebuild. They've also hired a brand new head coach. TJ, thoughts on the Colts before we get into their storylines?
No,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
it's about time, right? I think that I still don't think that I still think what's his name has to go. Irsay.
Yeah, but that's never gonna happen.
Like I feel like because it's one of those things where it's like one of these things like the common denominator in all your problems is literally like this one guy, like this one thing.
Yeah, but he's more than just one guy. He's the owner of the entire team. Like he's not going anywhere. As much of his crazy antics,
Like we say that all the time, but if the league finds stuff about you being like that's not act like the league can't step in and remove an owner. They've done it before.
I know, but I don't necessarily think it's going to get to. I don't know. Maybe it could, but I'd be pretty shocked if that ended up being a thing. Also, thank you very much for checking us out. I'm David Huffman. Right there is Mr. TJ Hopkins, my co-host. Let's get into the storylines right away. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. New era for Colts football. Kind of talked about here at this opening jump. New quarterback, new head coach. I think Chris Ballard is still the GM, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. But yeah, just thoughts on the new era. I mean, outside of the Jim Irsay thing, because he's not going anywhere. What are your thoughts on just finally deciding that, hey, let's stop playing around?
Yeah, Chris Ballard is still the GM. Like you said, it's one of those things where it's about time. Like you can't continue to slap a Band-Aid on certain things and hoping it gets better. Like that's like getting bitten by that's literally like getting bit by a poisonous snake and be like, all right, I'm going to slap this Band-Aid on it. And all right, it's going to get better. Oh, I'm still bleeding. I'm going to take this Band-Aid off and slap another Band-Aid on it and hope that one gets better results. Damn, it's still bleeding. I'm going to rip this Band-Aid off and slap another Band-Aid on it. Oh, I'm still bleeding. I guess I'm going to need that anti-venom and just take the time to get better, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Colts' depth. I mean, yeah, they needed to do this for a long time. So yeah, hopefully this is the start of a full 100% rebuild. I mean, they give a coach. They hired a new guy. Was it Shane Steichen from the Philadelphia Eagles? Hopefully you give him time. The Colts notoriously have been a head front office and a team that's given their head coaches some time. I think they Frank Wright was there probably one season too long, but Shane Steichen, they've kind of allowed them to kind of develop their own system. He comes from a very successful Philadelphia Eagles team, and he was there when the rise of Jalen Hurts. Hopefully, he has the same kind of success there with Anthony Richardson. We'll get to the draft class here in a minute, but yeah, this has been a long time coming. It's nice. It's kind of refreshing to see the Colts finally commit to it and not try to just kind of push another veteran quarterback into there, because I always felt like this was going to be a thing that they were going to do, and Anthony Richardson ends up being the pick. Swinging over to the second storyline, because we also talked about the new era of Colts football kind of in the intro. Let's talk about this offensive line. This offensive line was one of the strong points of the Indianapolis Colts for seasons upon seasons, and the last 2 years for sure they've really dipped down. I mean, Ryan Kelly's still a good player. Quentin Nelson's still a good football player. Had a down season last year, but they've had problems at the tackles. Both right and left. They've had a problem at right guard. What do you think this offensive line can get back to where this was a strength of this franchise?
Well, that's on the front office. That's on them.
Well, it's also coaching a little bit too, right? I mean, there's only so much coaching can do, but it's also on coaching just a smidge to, coach those guys up.
You can only but just like that, like you said, it coaching only goes so far. Like if you have no what you call it. If you have no talent, like I can only coach you up so much. Like before, it's like, all right, you just suck. Like you are just terrible. Before, like there's nothing you can do about that. Obviously, this line is headlined by Quentin Nelson, arguably the best guard in football. Like there's nothing you can say this. There's no one that you can say that's better at that position than Quentin Nelson. And if you do say someone, you better have a damn good argument. Um,
But he did have a semi-down season as far as Quentin Nelson standards. Let more pressures last season than any point in his career. But I think it's kind of like a testament of how the Colts were as a whole. Maybe more than just his production being declining through
I
that
mean,
one season.
it's kind of like those years with the Cowboys, right? When that O line was just destroying everybody, and then what happened? They got certain guys started to get hurt, other guys started to get old, and it's just like the inevitable. Like that's gonna happen. It's also one of those things where it's like you have to take advantage of it while you have it. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I know Andrew Luck is kicking back like, yo, where the hell was this line when I
Yeah,
was
right.
there?
Yeah.
Like he waited till he got off of a Hall of Fame level quarterback to be like, all right, I need to fix my O line. There we go.
Well,
And
I mean that comes with having high draft picks. I mean, the Colts when Andrew Luck were picking in the 20s, in the high teens.
you
Like
can
you can't.
still get a high
True,
quality
true,
offensive lineman in the
true.
teens and the 20s.
But I mean, one of the other issues when the Andrew Luck led Colts is the defense was terrible. Like like it wasn't until after they lose Andrew Luck that the defense got good, the offensive line improved. Like they committed to running the football. Like
Yeah, can an offensive line bounce back? Yeah, it's just a matter of like now the new head coach has to go to Chris Ballard and be like, hey, these are the guys I need to fit my scheme. Like I think Quentin Nelson's one of those
plug and
generational
play,
guys. Yeah, like
plug and play.
he can play in any kind of system and he'll still be that all pro.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted Bernard Raymond last year to be their left tackle. Mixed results from him last season. Brandon Smith, I think he's a second. He's a pretty young player, 27 years old, drafted in 2018. Probably not the future there at right tackle, but he's going to have to play this season because there's nobody else. I'm not totally sold that this offensive line can bounce back. I think there are too many questions at left tackle, especially at left tackle, where they've tried to basically replace. I can't remember the guy's name who retired, but after that, I mean, Alejandro Villanueva was there with mixed results, and last season, Bernard Raymond did what he could, but he was just undersized, outmatched in the NFL his first season. Coming out, was it South Dakota State or Wyoming? Central Michigan, sorry, Central Michigan. From
So
the
they
MAC,
got they're young in all the right places, right?
yeah.
Will Freeze is what 25. Ryan, like you got so like your headline on the offensive line.
25, right, Penn State,
Ryan
2021.
Kelly, Ryan Kelly's only 30.
Yeah, Quinn
Quentin,
Nelson's still pretty awesome, and he is our most valuable draft asset. I don't know. I'm not totally sold that this offensive line can bounce back. To the other side of the football, let's talk about the expectations from the defense. This was a really strong point for this team the last few seasons. They drafted Quinny Pay. He was pretty solid as a rookie. They traded a first-round pick for DeForest Buckner. That's been solid.
solid.
Shaquille Leonard, was injured most of last season. There was a time when he was one of the best linebackers in the NFL, arguably the best linebacker in the NFL. They traded away Stephon Gilmore into the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. What are we expecting out of this defense? As it was a testament, a really strong point for this team, and it didn't play bad last season either. The offense just didn't keep up their end of the bargain.
Well, DB1 responsibilities now fall on Kenny Moore, who is very underrated in my opinion. He one of those dudes like if you don't go into the game respecting him, he'll clamp you up. Didn't have a pick last season, didn't have a forced fumble last season, but he only had 4 pass deflections. But again, he so that responsibility goes on him. it might be some tough sledding, especially if the guys up front can't generate consistent pressure. So that's a lot of responsibility on DeForest Buckner, a Quiddy Pay, a Grover Stewart. Uh, I can't pronounce. I'm trying to say.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner, Oda Bingo,
And,
EJ Speed, Zaire Franklin is a pretty young player,
and then you
Tavon
got
Lewis,
and
Tavon
you got
Bryan, who they signed in free agency.
and you got rotational guys like Sampson, Ebukam, Adebaware. Like it's gonna be some uphill sledding. Like it's like
Yeah,
I think
I think the secondary of this team is really going to struggle this season. I think up front in the front seven, I think they're going to be okay. I think the Rodney Thomases of the world, Julian Blackman, who's actually a pretty solid football player, I just can see them struggling in the secondary. I'm not totally sure what to make of this defense. I think they'll probably be middle of the pack at best. It really also depends on how much they're on the football field next season. If this offense, under Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, whoever ends up being the starting quarterback, Jonathan Taylor can get back into form after an injury-riddled season. Jonathan Pittman Jr., Josh Downs ends up being a really good player there. Jelani Woods takes another step forward from what was a pretty solid rookie season. This defense is probably going to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. I don't think they're in the top 10. I don't think they're in the bottom 10 either.
honestly depends on. I think it depends on who they matching up with that week. Like
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Swinging into, let's talk about their draft. The Indianapolis Colts, by the way, had like a 5,000 draft picks in this year's draft. So I'm not going to really bother. We're not going to talk about all of them here. I do kind of want to talk about Anthony Richardson. Took him in for fourth pick in the first round. What do we like about Anthony Richardson outside of the athleticism? Um,
that's it.
is that the only thing do we think he can develop into what Cam Newton became, or what is the ceiling for Anthony Richardson?
That's what they're hoping. Like they hoping he turns into Cam Newton. Like because right now the only thing I like about him is the intangible 6'5", 6'6", two whatever. Obviously, like
6'4", 244 pounds. Ran the fastest 40 time at the quarterback position in this year at the combine.
congratulations,
The cone drill, like everything, like he just ran crazy numbers at the.
congratulations. Again, like all right, so like Shannon Sharp said it best. Like you won the speed contest, whatever the hell. Like he said, it's to me, it's not important. Like what people really do care about is what you put on film, and what they saw on film was like in college, you were a 50-something% passer.
Well, what they saw in college is wildly inconsistent play from week to
Exactly.
week, drive to drive, possession to possession. So there are some games, some moments where he looks brilliant, and there are other moments where you're scratching your head like that guy's a first round pick.
Like that's why it made no sense where he was he was even getting
First overall pick buzz over like guys.
that's
Over
what
guys yeah.
first overall pick. So what was it last season? So he goes. They're letting off fireworks outside. That's great.
That's good.
53.8% completion percentage, 2,549 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. Got sacked 13 times. I'm pretty sure he ran into a bunch of those. Had 654 rushing yards with 9 touchdowns. Like that's
But let's also not pretend like he was playing with a team that was loaded with talent in the Florida Gators last season. Like they were
and
basically Anthony Richardson or bust last year.
and let's not act like Cam Newton didn't do that in Auburn. Like you want to compare him to Cam Newton. Cam Newton won the Heisman and
Yeah,
the national
he won the national championship. He willed them
and,
there.
and Cam Newton was literally the only player from that Auburn team to make it and last to the NFL. Nobody else made like if they did make it, they weren't there long.
Nope, you're not wrong.
So yeah, you want to compare him to Cam Newton? Like you have to be fair. Not just like you have to be fair to Cam. Like we got to stop acting like Cam Newton wasn't a dog in college.
No, Cam Newton was that guy in college.
Like
Let's be real.
the only thing he has that's similar to Cam Newton is their build and their makeup. That's it.
I mean, yeah,
But
Cam Newton was a winner. He probably would have been a winner of Florida if he hadn't been behind Tim Tebow there, arguably the greatest college football player ever. I think that conversation can be had. But yeah, Cam Newton is in his own right one of the greatest college football players ever and had one of the greatest seasons ever. Anthony Richardson, we'll see. The verdict is very much still out. To their second pick, they took a corner out of Kansas State. 6'3", kind of has all the intangibles. He's coming off a wrist injury, surgery. It won't be right for the start of training camp. He's from Indianapolis, playing in Warren Central High School. So it's a replacement for Stephon Gilmore. What do you
and
think
this
about
and this is a Kansas State team that upset
TCU?
TCU in the Big 12 championship. Like
Yeah.
that was a very well coached, very good Kansas State team.
And then
Um,
in the third round, I think they got a steal in Josh Downs. I love Josh Downs. I think he's going to be an immediate, perfect complement to Michael Pittman Jr.
Trio. So like now you got a trio of him, Alec Pierce, and Michael Pittman Jr., which is solid. It's respectable. Obviously, like I really don't think anyone cares, and I'm saying that respectfully about the rest of the draft class. That even the DT out of Northwestern, I think that was a steal too.
I
To
think that
get
was a steal too. I mean, that guy had first round buzz to get him in the fourth round at the pick that they got him at.
right, to get him
4.49 at the 40-yard dash, 282 pounds. He's also 6'1".
But obviously, like I think because they went Anthony Richardson at fourth overall, no one cares about the rest of the draft class.
Well,
I'm sorry to say that and I'm pretty sure the rest of these dudes they're going to turn into some players, but no one's going to care. No one's
yeah, I
going
mean
to.
this whole draft class is basically hinges on the success of Anthony Richardson. If he ends up becoming a good football player, this will end up becoming a good draft. But I really do like what the Colts did, at least dressing needs. Like they got they got a couple offensive tackles, they got a couple corners, they got a safety, they got a running back, so they can give Jonathan Taylor some rest there.
Yeah.
As an overall with the draft, I mean, without knowing what Anthony Richardson is going to be right now, I think this is probably a solid B plus B draft
You
for the
are
Indianapolis Colts.
you are being generous. I'm giving it a C plus because of the Anthony. Because like Chris Ballard, I don't know if Chris Ballard got dirt on Jim Irsay or what. Like I really don't know.
I'm with you. I don't know how he still has a job.
But like legit, ask Ryan Pace. Do Bears fans care that he found a steal in Tariq Cohen in the fourth round? He found a Jordan Howard. Eddie Jackson fell all the way to the fourth round. Like ask us, do we care? We don't. Like those they turn into nice players. Eddie Jackson's still on the team, but you want to know why we're pissed off at Ryan Pace? Because he picked intangibles over the sure thing. Like Ryan Pace will forever be known as the guy who passed up on Deshaun Watson and the guy that turned into Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. So we'll talk about their draft. I'm giving them a solid B plus. I actually like what they did with the draft, given that they had a billion picks. To their free agency class, not a whole lot to talk about. Matt Gay is a guard, offensive lineman. Should give them some depth, or a kicker. Sorry, Matt Gay, the kicker from the Los Angeles Rams, has a big leg. Is a really good player. Gardner Minshew, Minshew Mania, back in Indianapolis with his former coach. There, Taven Bryan has been bouncing around the league. He was in Cleveland last year. He spent a long time in Jacksonville. It's a solid DT. The notable departures: Matt Ryan, who retired; Stephon Gilmore, who got traded to the Dallas Cowboys; Bobby Okereke, signed left to free agency; Paris Campbell, who I do like, and I do like that he's now I don't remember. And Yannick Ngakoue has not signed with the NFL team yet, even though he's been a productive player so far in the NFL. Paris Campbell went to the Giants, who I actually like that signing. But I mean, nobody's going to sign with the Colts right now because they're not expected to be good next season. I do like the Matt Gay signing. I think that he could single-handedly win them some games.
Yeah, he's kicking in a controlled environment for.
Yeah. I mean, he was kicking in a controlled environment before, but
like no win, no nothing. It's you're playing in a dome.
They also signed Isaiah McKenzie, who I liked in Buffalo. I thought he should have gotten more playing time.
And I'm surprised no one scooped up Ngakoue. I'm really curious as to what what's going on there. Maybe it's because he didn't have an agent, but now he has an agent. Who's his agent? I think Drew Rosenhaus is his agent now.
I
So
mean, Unique Ngakwe, I know he's played on 4 teams in 3 seasons, but when he's on the football field, he's effective. I think he's had double-digit sacks every season he's played more than 10 games.
he's not even
So,
listed on the depth chart no more. Like Jesus Christ.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
Obviously, so like Shane Steichen, new head coach. He literally just spent the last season with Gardner Minshew. So Gardner Minshew comes in with a leg up on literally every other quarterback on the roster. He knows the system. He's rightly so getting first team reps over those guys. I don't want to see. I low key don't want to see Anthony Richardson on the field this year.
I
And
don't necessarily disagree with you. I think if you're going to play Anthony Richardson, though, I think you got to play him from the jump, and you got to kind of live with the pitfalls of starting a rookie quarterback.
yeah, because it's gonna be ugly. And again, I'm not saying you're gonna win a championship with Gardner Minshew, but just you still got to respect him. Like that's
I mean, Minshew Mania was a thing for a reason. I almost had to buy a Minshew Mania jersey at
like
one point.
literally like it's not his fault that those Jags teams were just not talented
Yeah.
enough.
I mean, he was good for those Jacksonville Jaguars teams. Not taking anything away from him. So, but I think when we talk about free agency, I mean, this is what happens when your team is going through a rebuild. You lose a lot of really good pieces. Unique Ngakwe, Paris Campbell, Stephon Gilmore, Matt Ryan all retire and leave. Um, I personally I love getting Mark Gardner Minshew here. I think having a veteran who knows the system, G. Anthony Richardson, I think is a good move for the Indianapolis Colts. But that being said, I can't give this any higher than like a CC plus.
Yeah, I mean you got to work with the hand that's giving you.
Yep. To their schedule, Mr. Hopkins, the 2023 record prediction for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's rip through this schedule real quick. First game of the season, Jacksonville Jaguars come into the house that Peyton Manning built. And does the Jaguars come out with a victory?
Yeah, that's a L.
I also think the Jacksonville Jaguars win that game. They go to Houston and they go to Baltimore back-to-back weeks on the road. Do they win either of those games at Houston and at Baltimore?
Oh, no, I misheard you. Probably not. The one that they probably could win is Houston.
I think it depends on. I think it depends on who the quarterback is for both of those two teams, for the Colts and for the Houston Texans.
We already know for the Texans it's gonna be
right.
CJ.
CJ Stroud. Sorry, CJ Stroud.
It's gonna be CJ Stroud. Like CJ, there's no one there that should be able to compete with him, and you don't draft him second overall to be like, hey, we're gonna start this other guy.
Yeah, I mean, Davis Mills is still there. I mean, it depends on how he looks at training camp and all that good stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. With that being said, I actually think that the Houston Texans, I think they lose both those games. I think they go to Houston and lose. I think they lose. They for sure lose the game in Baltimore.
I think when we did the Texans, I'm like the only way they win this game is if what's his name, Jonathan Taylor, just run for like 250.
And he could.
And he could.
They could. Then they got 2 games back to back at home. They got the Los Angeles Rams coming off a pretty disappointing season. We'll get to their season preview at some point down the line here. And then the Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk about them in the next episode of the season preview episode. So keep an eye out for that content. But do they win either of those games at home? I say no.
Who's this?
Los Angeles Rams, Titans.
Well, the thing with the Rams is they're like obviously they don't have the talent that they once had on defense, but they're healthy. Like most importantly,
we would assume they're healthy at this point.
No, like they was hurt. What's his name was hurt going into training camp last year.
Yeah, Stafford.
Yeah, they losing this game. Yeah. They legit might start the season. What's that? 0-5, 1-4 at the best.
Yeah, I think I will go with you on that. I think they're starting the season. I actually have them beat the Titans. This is in their building. I'll have them beat the Titans, and I'll have them 1-4 going into another game where they got to go to Duval County and take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and their winning ways end there. They lose to the Jaguars,
Yeah,
and being
yeah.
frank, they lose the next four games as they lose to Cleveland in Indy, they lose to New Orleans in Indy, they go to Carolina, and yeah, they lose that game too, and then they go to New England Patriots and they lose that game. So I got them at 1-9 going into their bye. Yeah, 1-9 going into their bye. Do you disagree?
It's hard not like it's hard to do that. I don't see them like if they don't beat Jacksonville week 1 and then like their best case scenario is like in their first 5 games they're 2-3. You beat Jacksonville, you beat Houston because those are like your quote unquote winnable games in this stretch. I don't expect them to hang around with Baltimore for long. Same thing with the Rams. The Titans, if they get Derrick Henry going, and then you already know they can't. That's a grown ass man for a reason. Like we say that for a reason. Like he's been known to terrorize this entire division since he's been there. Cleveland's looking to bounce back. You have to justify giving Deshaun Watson all that bread, and for the love of God, he better come through.
Yeah, it's true.
New Orleans, same thing. Derek Carr's trying to be like, hey, I still got some go in me. Carolina just has better weapons, and a better. Would you say Carolina's defense is better?
I think it's close.
It's pretty close, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to. Actually, I think I don't know, could they beat Carolina? I think they could beat
I mean,
Carolina.
they could beat Carolina, but I think that game's in Carolina, so I'll go with Carolina winning that game.
That's fine.
But yeah, I just I just don't see them having like 1-9. That's how I feel. After the bye, Tampa Bay comes to town. I actually think they get another win here. I'm not sure what to expect out of Tampa Bay, as I don't expect much. I think they're going to be in for a world of hurt given the Baker Mayfield thing. So yeah, I got them at 2-9. Going down the down stretch of the season. You got who do you got in that game? Tampa Bay or the Colts?
Taking the Colts. I like Baker. I like Gardner Minshew more than I like Baker Mayfield.
Me too. They got 2 games back to back on the road. One against the AFC South and one against the AFC North. Tennessee Titans and Cincinnati Bengals. TJ, do you think they win either of those 2 games on the road?
Mm-mm.
I agree with you on that. I think. Yeah, I think I got them going. Was it 2-10, 2-11 into the final 4 games of the season? Then Pittsburgh comes to town. I think they lose that game. They go to Atlanta. I think they lose that game, and then they lose to Vegas, and then they beat Houston at home to round out their season at 3-14.
Real talk, that Pittsburgh game for the Steelers, that screams trap game. Like that is 100% a trap game for the Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what Pittsburgh's season's going like at that point. I mean, we don't know what. Like, I don't know how to expect that to get Kenny Pickett, but yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that take.
I expect better because this ain't like Kenny Pickett's a rookie anymore. Like no, he's
and he was good, really good down the stretch for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So like this is a dude that he's had a year in the system. Najee Harris is there. You add an Allen Robinson who's trying to prove he still got some go. George Pickens is wide receiver number 1. Pat Fryermuth is a more than solid tight end.
I mean, Deontay Johnson's still on this team, dude. He's probably still wide receiver 1. Deontay Johnson's a good player.
I think the Steelers' season goes a little bit different if they don't lose T.J. Watt for like the first.
I agree with you. They could even potentially even win AFC North last season. So.
And I just think it's a bad luck of the draw for the schedule this year for them. You get the AFC North and the NFC South. So yeah, like that AFC, like I don't expect them to. They gonna lose all their games to the AFC North.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Like that's. Like the only winnable games on your schedule are the two Texan games, right?
I think they can beat the Titans at home, and I think they
They
can beat
they could probably
beat Tampa.
and they beaten Tampa. I don't think they can beat the Saints straight up. I don't think they can beat like they can probably beat the Panthers. If it's a close game with the Panthers, that wouldn't surprise me. But I still expect the Panthers to win.
I agree with you on that too. I think that game should be close. Like
And I think
I'm not. A,
The Falcons have retooled their defense well enough to give them some.
I talked about this last time, man. I think Atlanta's going to be better than people expect. They're like you're gonna notice when you play Atlanta, whenever you play them this season. Like they're going to play a style of football that you don't see very much anymore. As this like run it down your throat all the time, every play. Like it's going to be a pain to go to play against them week to week out.
I know I'll give y'all hell for fantasy, but Tyler Algiers is going to be a solid pickup for fantasy football this year.
Yep.
Him and Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson 17.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
They're going to be running a three-headed monster out there in Atlanta. So yeah, he's the Indianapolis Colts finished the season 3-14. I'm sorry, Colts fans, but that's the reality. You're in a rebuild. It's going to be a while before you're probably back to where you want to be, where you used to be when you had Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning and even Phillip Rivers a few years ago. But at some point, you had to bite the bullet. You weren't going to be the successful Indianapolis Colts forever. Before I just want to remind Colts fans, before you had Peyton Manning, you weren't all that good. Just throwing it out there. Just remember, you weren't good.
So that's the issue that fan bases of those teams have to come to grips with.
Like Spurs fans, Patriot fans. Like if the Patriots ever suck at any point, like it's gonna be tough. A rude awakening.
Like Colts fans, Patriots fans, hell, Steelers fans. Like Big Ben was such a linchpin for you for so long. Now it's like it didn't help. It didn't help that most of these teams really didn't have a succession plan.
Yeah.
In place, like the Patriots were kind of lucky to go from Tom Brady leaves that summer. They draft Mac Jones,
and he had a pretty solid rookie season. But yeah, that's been our Indianapolis Colts season preview. If you're familiar with us here at Prime Sports World, you may have noticed that we skipped episode 800 on the list. We're planning to have an 800 episode special here in a couple weeks. We're gonna do some quizzes. We're gonna do some of those tweets, some of those games that we played that one time. I love that kind of stuff. So we will be bringing that back here in a few weeks. Probably when I get back from vacation, which is in a couple weeks.
Where you going?
That. I'm going to Colorado. I'm taking remember that van I bought. I'm taking that, and I'm taking a road trip with me and my dad and a couple of my friends from Columbus, and we're going to the Vanning Nationals in Colorado. I'll be gone all week. I'll be living in my van.
Vanning Nationals. That's
it's a thing, dude. I'm telling you, dude. I'll explain it more in the group chat. It's something. But yeah, this has been Prime Sports World. Thank you very much for checking us out. We'll be back on Monday when we're going to be talking about the offseason for the Chicago Bulls. Don't want to miss that content. That's our favorite team here at Prime Sports World. We're going to talk about their offseason in length. Because if you missed the show yesterday, me and Izzy broke down the off seasons for every team but the Bulls. Me and TJ did a bunch of the off seasons for all the teams as they were getting eliminated from the playoffs. So the Bulls are going to get their own show. You're not going to want to miss that content. I'm David Huffman. Right there is Mr. TJ Hopkins. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have a good night, man, and have a good weekend, buddy.
See you, man.